For this shave, we're going to use the Declaration B5 knot Badger 24 millimeter handle we have here from Whip Dog, and this is their tall handle. It's a resin, one of my favorites. I have big hands and it's very nice to hold. Going to soak it in some water. That is optional if you're a new wet shaver. Some people don't do that. All right, razor we're going to use is the Blackland Dart. This is the matte version, and or the machined version is the name, and it is a slightly aggressive shaver. It's not as aggressive as his big brother, the Blackland Blackbird, but it will get you if you have sensitive skin or if your technique is not very good. Mine started out, I didn't have the right angle, and so while I didn't really experience cuts, I did experience irritation. But I kept at it and figured out that it was my angle. And since then, it's been a very enjoyable razor to use. This is a feather blade. It's been used once. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the top cap of the razor, push it down past the posts, and then the base plate goes on, and a very nice and attractive stainless steel handle goes on next. Never have I had a problem with the alignment on this razor. When the blade is put in, it is exactly right every time so far, and I expect that's probably just the way it'll be because of the tolerances he added in there, and that's pretty cool. The soap this time is Texas on Fire from Stirling, and Stirling makes a great base. It's a great value because for $14 or whatever, $15, and if you get the refill pucks, it's even cheaper. You get 5.8 ounces. 6 ounces of soap for that price, and that's a great value, especially considering it's a really slick, nice lathering soap. I like stronger scents, and I think this is going to land me in a really good spot. This one has been used before. It's a brown color, swirled and mottled, and it is a kind of tobacco, burned woods, fire, but here's the cool thing. There's another scent out there, and it may be Barrister and Man Rome. Can't remember which one. Maybe Falls Lumberjack by Henri and Victoria. And it was very similar to this, but it tripped the line over into I'm smelling like a used ashtray, and so it wasn't for me. This one stays a little bit farther back from that somehow, and I really like it from the tub. This is the first time I'm trying that scent. I have tried Stirling soaps before, and it's a great base. So I'm confident everything will be just fine. I have my Dollar Tree lather bowl. It's a melamine, temporarily trying it out. That's why it's an odd color. And this is all they had in the store that day. And I thought this shape might be a good idea, and so far it's a very valid choice. I think maybe I like my U shape a little bit better, but who knows, I might keep this around and move back and forth between the two. It is a little refreshing to have it be a little bit more open, and I think we're ready to go. Let's scoop out. This is a 1/4 teaspoon scoop, and there we go, and you can see the little surface underneath. The person who sold this to me was very, we are dealing with just a little bit extra, more than a 1/4 teaspoon. If you get one of these really thin walled measuring spoons, it's real easy because it's just so thin that it digs right through. This is very handy even if you don't use it for I use it for everyday shaving. Even if you don't use it for that, you can, it is still very helpful when you get one of those little samples, which I advise you to do so you don't waste your money. Get a sample that has about 5 shaves in it, and use that to kind of govern your amount so that you make the best use out of that sample. All right, and there we go. It is pressed into the bottom of the bowl. A little bit more than a 1/4 teaspoon. Nice slick soap. And we'll see how it smells. Last few days I've had medium to low strength scents, and I'm really happy to have one that promises to be stronger. All right, I'm going to splash my face with water. Cool water, and at this location it is fairly soft water, which is conducive to lathers. I'm not going to do any kind of pre-wash today. Take the brush out. I like to sling it out so that I start only with a damp brush and not a really wet or overly wet brush at all. And here we go. And with my method that I've adopted over the past several months, I like to go at it like this in its most dry state for just a little bit and see how it operates, see what happens. If it stays super dry, then fine, maybe 10 or 12 seconds into it I'll stop and add some water. However, if it really starts to generate an early proto-lather, then that's probably an indicator that that soap needs to have water added to it very slowly. Get my syringe here and fill it with water so that I can know how much water I'm going to be adding, and I can add it easily a 1/2 teaspoon at a time. Just go a little bit. I believe online there are some people who say that they have trouble lathering Stirling. So maybe this is maybe this might be a good technique for them to see. If mine is successful, I'm sure it will be. I believe I've done this with Stirling before. I believe last time I used Stirling, it did take the whole 1/4 teaspoon, so some soaps don't. Let's see what this brush does. Not really focusing on the lather that's up on the sides there, because I've got a little bit on the bottom of the bowl. I'm just gonna make that my priority and see if that works out. I'm sure it will. Maybe reach up and grab a little bit up there every once in a while. Lather's looking great. Nice scent. Oh, a little different. It's changed. It's smoothed out a little bit. That is nice. And now that I have 2 teaspoons added, I'm going to refill the syringe and add another 1/2 teaspoon. Looks like I have gathered up, come on now, Just flicked a bunch of lather around. Oh yeah, look at that. Let's grab it. Trying to. Yeah, still very slick. Doing nice. However, this is at the point where I'm going to slow down. I'm going to make sure I get a good mix right now before I add any more water. Because who knows, it might just be at the right spot. That's nice. So yeah, this is an easy, good one to lather. I mean, maybe the person was coming in with a brush that was just way too wet. You know, I don't know. It's not really that hard to lather. Maybe their lathering method is just way different from mine. This bowl gets slippery. It's hard to hold because of the V shape. I'm going to gather up plenty of lather in the bowl. Big old wad on the brush. We are in good shape. Let's do a finger test. Okay, just grab a little bit on 2 fingers like that. A little bit of resistance, that's the cushion. And nice slickness. I do feel my fingerprints, so I'm going to go ahead and stop. All right. That feeling your fingerprints thing is just one thing you can look for. And use as a landmark to tell you something about your soap. It doesn't mean that with every soap that's the rule. It just means that's something you can look for. A soap, some soaps maybe you can take to that point where you feel your fingerprints. Other soaps you may not want to take that far. And I'm going to wet my face again. And my goatee is growing back nicely. Happy about that. Get my handle, rinse my handle off. Got a little on the wet side. All that craziness. These resin handles do get slippery when wet with soap too. When it's just wet, they're not too bad. Soap feeling good. Notice how it might look a little thin sometimes when you're doing these kind of scrubbing circular motions. That's just fine. I mean, sometimes it's not fine, but in this case, look at all that lather I've got on the side of my brush. So we know it's fine. Do a little scrubbing since it's the first pass. A little bit of exfoliation, cleaning the skin, working away pieces of dirt from the surface of the skin so it'll rinse away and not damage your blade. There we go. Now look at all that lather that we can bring in from the sides, and we'll switch to painting motions. Seems like I got the soap nice and dialed in, at least by the looks of it. Here's the thing. My first few shaves with this were rough, and I would not dream of putting a feather in here because often the feather is a rough blade for me if it's in the wrong razor. It has legendary status among many people as being the sharpest blade out there. Kai is similar. They're both expensive blades, relatively speaking. This guy's going to be $0.25 each instead of maybe 8 cents each, like some of the others, more budget type blades. But if you buy the 100 pack. However, I've improved my technique, my angle, and so I do not have a problem. However, I haven't tried it yet. But I am confident it'll go just fine. I am going to keep kind of my normal maximum bite, my high efficiency bite for the first pass in general. A lot of blade feel right there. I feel if I did not manage my angle correctly, or if I move the blade in the wrong way, it would definitely give me a nick. A lot of people think that people are just kind of falling into the hype of, feather. And it is true that you can't tell one person, you need to try this blade because it's the best. Because it's subjective. You have no idea what that blade is going to do to another person. It could be twice as rough. It could be crazy smooth. You just don't know. And a lot of people will speak when they shouldn't. But, I mean, to me, early on, this was a rough razor. The blade, the feather blade, and I cut myself 3 times every time I used it. But it was my technique that was at fault. And when my technique got better, I was able to use feathers with any razor I wanted to. I mean, except maybe an adjustable set on 9 or something super aggressive. So in a way, I do think they're kind of sharper. Maybe the blade edge is more fragile, and so when it really bites, it bites. I don't know. All right. Rinse. Nice scent. Kind of roasted, burned woods. And it's not a kind of a high toxic type scent, pungent type scent. It has a mellowness as well, and I'm really glad about that. I am going to remove the excess water from my face and before adding, because I think maybe I want it just a little thicker. Don't have to scrub quite as much on the second and third passes. A little painting motion like that, not really engaging the splay. This particular brush does not splay very well. The loft is pretty low. Relatively speaking, loft is the length of the bristles when they from where they come out of the brush to the very top. And with a low loft and with a high amount of bristles, which means density, then you're going to get a lot of backbone and not as much splay. The splay is what I find the really comfortable thing, where you just feel luxurious things come over you when you get a good splay off a really soft brush. You're like, holy cow, I didn't know this could feel so good. There we go. I'm glad that I took off the extra water. So I would say, for now at least, this ratio that I have, the little bit more than a quarter teaspoon with 2.5 teaspoons of water, is on the high end of what you might go for, generally. All right, that means it'll be nice and slick. The slickness, the water helps it to bond with your face. Using a closer angle where the handle is closer to my face. My cheeks always get shaved well, so I can play around with whatever angle I want with my cheeks. Soap rinses easily from the razor, so that means it's not too thick. Now right there I had a closed angle, but I felt almost nothing cut. So I opened the handle a little bit more and I felt some hairs getting cut. Not with each pass, I'm not trying to pick up every hair. I'm not trying to cut them all down with one pass. I'm just trying to make an efficient pass. Catching what hair I can. And we'll use another pass to get all the hair. That was almost against the grain right there. This is so slick you can do like that where I didn't put my lather back on. Hey, here's a little trick I'll show you. Want to put some lather back on? If you've got enough on your blade, you can just kind of push and it'll throw some back on take it off your blade there so that you can come back and have a protected little area for shaving. Dart's doing great. Second pass and the feather, not really very much irritation at all. This soap base easily competes with soaps costing almost twice its price. Easily, and it's got tons of scents for you to choose from, ranging from ones that are based on colognes, ones that are more theme like this one with wooded and fire and that kind of thing. You got some fruity ones. You got a whole big old selection of menthol if you like that sort of thing. You dab away the extra water. They have a great samples plan if you don't know about that. They give you 2-ounce samples, I believe is what it is. They're pucks that are this big, and it's basically a month's worth of shaves. I mean, if all the other soap shops died away, I'd be happy living off of Stirling sample pucks because, you know, you could just have such a variety and such a great choice. So many options. You could just enjoy yourself without choosing based on your mood or whatever. And then whenever the sample was, you could get a lot of use out of your sample. Just order another sample when it's time. And what is that? $24, which is the price of an expensive puck of like Barrister and Man or something. Holy cow! That would last you about a year with Stirling soaps if you were to buy a sample for each month. Pretty cool. All right, I don't work for them. They don't give me anything, so this is not endorsed in any way by Stirling. I'm just a Happy customer. All right. So let us gather some lather. Gather some lather. Third pass. Do feel a little bit of irritation down in this area. Maybe I went over that area with a little too much, with a little too less lather and hydration. And so that's a little bothersome, but it's not. It's like a level 2 out of 10 type irritation, so no big deal. Spread it out, don't have to scrub very much at all. The third pass, feather blade. This feather blade's been used once before, so this is the second time. Sometimes that matters. Sometimes the first time has a little burr on it and it's a little more rough than usual. With some blades, I can't remember if feather is like that. All right. Keep my skin taut. Light touch. Cognizant. Thinking about my pressure. Shaving gently. Don't have to be quite as gentle over on this side of the world. Just a light touch like that, and if that way the razor can move if it needs to, if I don't accommodate for a bump, then I'm not putting leverage on it when I don't need to, and therefore it's not digging in, causing irritation. Being careful in this region, since I had a little bit of irritation, I'm going to just only shave where there's lather. Keep that angle low unless I don't feel like I'm cutting anything. And I mean the handle being low, meaning close to the face instead of more out like that. There we go, third pass is in the books. Now what I'm going to do is pause you so I can take a good look at the results to see if I need to do that fourth pass. I do have a little bit of irritation, so it's clear this is a blade that's on the rough side, but it's a lot less irritation than I was when I was using more smooth blades, and I was using them at the wrong angle. So it is still it's still progress, still something very good. Okay, you know what? In this area where I do have some irritation, that's because I cut it close. All I see is just the very tops of the hairs, and since I don't go against the grain, that's about as good as I usually get. There's a little bit of length left right here, so maybe I just wasn't very careful. So let me go ahead and throw some lather on there. Did I get the whole area? There we go. So just a small little touch up. And that is one of the strengths of aggressive razors like this. It's not super aggressive, it's kind of mid-aggressive, but there's a potential there with good technique and a good blade that matches, just happens to match your skin and hair type and stuff, that you can possibly have fewer passes, okay? Instead of More passes with a more mild razor. I'm choosing an angled approach. That kind of goes with the grain of the hair. And there we go. And that helps with comfort. It helps with not generating irritation. If my hairs are kind of growing down like this, and I take my razor and I go flat up against them like that, then I'm coming at them right in, actually these neck hairs are going sideways. So if I just do it flat coming up, then, you know, that's one level of comfort. But if I turn my blade this way and I'm slicing up this way, you see how it's almost pulling the hairs away from the follicle as it cuts them. And that is much more comfortable and less likely to develop irritation if you have skin like me in the neck area. If the hairs are growing this way and you tilt your head this way, then when you go up, you are kind of doing it against the grain to some degree, literally degree, because it's an angle. And it's doing some pushing in toward, or trying to lift the hairs up away from the skin toward the follicle, which is, you know, part of an against the grain pass, which can, and in my case, does cause irritation in my neck area. Grip, excellent here on this razor. If it is soapy or watery and soapy both, never had a problem with it. Well designed. That is one thing where I believe it'll be superior to its polished version, which is going to come out in a few months, they say. And that's one thing that really makes me think, hey, maybe the polished version is more for me. I mean, maybe this matte version is better for me. It's a hard choice. Really hard choice. It has a nice 30-day return policy so that you can evaluate the razor. And I don't know if I'll have to take advantage of that so that I can get the polished one later. All right, I'm going to rinse this out. Yeah, that really helped with the irritation. I did not create any more irritation by doing that. That's one of the things that's really good. Very happy, above average shave. Very happy with it. So there are a couple of other blades. I think the Gillette Platinum was a little bit more comfortable and had similar, if not better, results. And so this one was a little bit less comfortable with similar results. So I would choose the Gillette Platinum for people of my skin and hair type. All right, so the scent was just a great part of the shave. The strength maybe, I'd say, was a 4 or a 5 while shaving out of 10. And that's very enjoyable to bring you into that part of the experience, instead of only being able to smell it while your nose is in the bowl, like so many soaps. As you can tell, it's not my thing. All right, so Texas on Fire wins. It's good stuff. Great base. Protected my skin really well with the shave. If you want it to be a little bit more luxurious and cushiony, then add a little bit less water than I did, and you'll get there. Very good. Very happy with that shave. I'm just going to go with my old friend, Nivea Sensitive. Doesn't have any alcohol. Not going to give me any kind of sting or indicators about the success of my shave, but it just treats my skin really well. And if you do it when your skin is a little moist like I am, it only takes a second to put on, and it doesn't irritate your skin as long as you move your hand in the direction of your hair growth. I can't go against the grain on my neck, so I still, you know, if I apply salve in the reverse direction, sometimes I generate some irritation just because of that. The hairs aren't super close super closely cut. One bad thing about feathers is that they have this residue, this wax, I don't know what it is. It's in the envelope and it keeps the blade centered in the envelope, and I guess that's nice to protect the edges as it's in shipping, but it gets in your base plate. You know, you have to clean it out. For that reason, that's probably the reason I don't use feathers very much, even though in some of my razors they do such a great job. But I'm tired of having to clean out, reach in and clean out all these spots. You see those spots there between the posts? That's that grime, whatever it is. So I'll happily put up with that shave, because the only irritation I really felt was here for a little bit. It's really kind of gone. It's a little tender to the touch. I stir it up to maybe a level 2 if I touch it, but I wasn't feeling it just a second ago. And that was because I shaved that area a couple of times too many when the lather had been pushed away already. Don't want to do that sometimes, especially with a rough blade, at least one that's rough for your skin. Feather may not be that for you, but it might. But I got a great result, really happy with that. And I've only required a little touch up as the 4th pass instead of a whole neck touch up. So that is very above average for me. The soap, love the base. That was no surprise. The scent was just terrific. I could shave with that one. Nice scent strength for me. My preferences, it is right on the money. Yeah, just kind of burned woods. And it's not just a woody scent like only cedar or only pine or something like that. I prefer other woods other than cedar. And it does smell like it's more of a blend, more of a mix, and I'm happy about that. The brush did fine. The razor did great. I was able to control it easily with changing the angle. If I felt like on the second and future passes it was dragging, I'm sorry, not dragging, but cutting a little too closely, that might bring up some irritation. So that was good. Some people report a dragging issue with this razor and also with the Blackbird. I do get it with the Blackbird sometimes, but it's usually when my lather's not good enough. With this one, I almost never get dragging. I've had great lathers so far with this while I've been using this dart, and I just never have a bothersome drag feeling at all. I mean, barely a little bit might I feel it on occasion, but when my lathers are on point, it's just not a problem. If you feel drag with this razor, then your lathers are probably just not hydrated enough, or they're hydrated too much, is my guess. So work on your lathers and you won't have a problem with the drag. So we're good. There we go. If I had this set up on a desert island, I'd be just fine. I believe I could shave with this setup every day for 20 years and be a happy camper. So if you're of my skin type and hair type, I highly recommend this setup in case you are looking for something. So there we go, a feather inside of the somewhat new Blackland dart. I hope this was helpful to you. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. We're all done. Take care. Good night.